Sam Watson. Tell us a little bit more about EquiLum, Sam. You are a proud EquiLum rider. Just give us an insight as to what it is all about.
They are a company all about bringing nature's light, that quality of light that we get from nature, making sure that is there for the horses, whether they are stabled, whether they're in the middle of a long winter or whatever it is, that they're not being deprived of any of that quality of light. Obviously, as we know as humans, that we have a circadian rhythm. We are responsive to light. It affects us mentally, it affects us physically. So that the areas that I love about EquiLum as a performance rider is, I think, that muscle growth and that muscle recovery. I think the physical side of it, being able to help my equine athletes to perform and to recover well, both of those hugely affected by it.
It is time, listeners, for the Riders to Watch of 2024. Now, before we started this show, just to give you a little insight, Dee and I studiously revising. Sam says the words, "I am a goldmine of content." And then
I'm so glad you filtered. I'm so glad you filtered what I put in.
Something else can't be repeated on the show. Sam, how scared should we be?
Look, listeners, the three musketeers are here. The voice of eventing, Nicole Brown, the founder of EquiRatings, Diarm Byrne, and the mastermind behind EquiRatings, Sam Watson. I'm very happy to call Dee the founder because there would be no EquiRatings without him. Anyone who knows me well enough knows that I love nothing more than being in a dark room in front of a screen, nerding away on numbers, or out in a sand pit on a horse. I enjoy that too. Actually, not a sand pit. I prefer to be out on the grass galloping around. But when you put the three of us together, magic happens. Riders to Watch 2024, folks. Sit down, buckle up. Kettle has been on. If you haven't made your cup of tea, press pause, make your cup of tea, and then press play, because we're here.
Listeners, if you need something stronger after that intro, crack on. No, it is going to be an absolute humdinger because we are going to look at three different categories on this show. We are going to be picking our first-time 5-star winner, so a rider who hasn't won a 5-star but does so for the first time, we think, in 2024. Young gun, so 22 or under. And we're going to start with the mother of all battles, debates, differences of opinion. I am absolutely sure who will be the Olympic champion in 2024. Sam, make your case.
The Olympic champ. This is a really interesting one. So you're going to have me, and this isn't the gold mine really. On the Horses to Watch show, I talked about the suitability score. I talk about how we weight each attributes depending on who we want to flag up. And I said that right now, in terms of winning a 5-star, Lordship's Grappolo, as he sits in the DB, is the most suitable horse in the world right now. Nothing that's obviously obvious, but it's great when we back it up because he's the number 3 horse, I think, in the world on the ELO. But the ELO is a little bit like it's much more intelligent than British eventing points or FEI points or something that just accumulate, because obviously ELO goes down with bad performance. But Chipmunk and Ballamore Class have had such a head start on Graffalo. Like he's, I want to say, 4 years younger than either of the other two, but he's so close to catching them. So he's the 3rd highest rated horse in the world on the ELO, Graffalo. And yeah, I think we'd all agree that he's the most likely one on paper. But in an interview with Roz at Badminton this year, she was nervous about his jumping, Graffalo's, about the show jumping. I think you should be careful. I think it's easy to just, it should be my job to just keep it simple and say Lordship's Graffalo, but I'm going to take him on because of the 2 rounds of jumping. And I know.
How was she nervous? Hang on a second. You can't drop that bomb. Where were the nerves?
Oh, she just said, she was like, he wasn't jumping great at home. I mean, this was before badminton. I mean, she's won badminton and the European since.
I think she was nervous possibly going into the show jumping at badminton because she had oodles of poles in hand. And when you have oodles of poles in hand, that's actually like... No,
this was right after a cross-country round. I don't think it had sunk in just what a comfort zone she'd had. And, when you perform well in a 5-star after cross-country, the first thing you think is, okay, she knew she was going to be in the lead, but... and look, she knew she'd have a bit of comfort, but you are just thinking, oh, am I going to jump clear tomorrow? You're trying to find weaknesses possibly where there is none, but it's actually more than that. You've got to play the format, okay? You've got to play and Lordship's Graffalo. I'm going to take 4 runs of his. In 2023, where all the recency bias is, he absolutely pulverized the world, right? Massive winning margins at the Europeans and badminton, but both in very testing conditions. With 2.5 stone on his back, he just sauntered around and left everyone else miles behind. But in 2022, and of course he's entitled to improve, and he could improve again. And he had improved his first phase starting score in 2023. But in 2022, he was beaten by a couple of by Banzai Dolar and Amon de Bouville, and actually Falco, tied with Falco, but lost out to him at Bertoni, and was beaten by London 52 by more than a fence in his first badminton. And I know he's improved since then, but that's the piece of form that I can't get out of my head. And I am going to forgive London 52. He is my predicted Olympic champion. He is a 3-time 5-star winner, London 52. And he has 3 of the 4 lowest finishing scores in 5-star history. Let that sink in, folks. He has 3 of the 4 best finishing scores at 5-star in the history of this sport, London 52. I know Fisher Chipmunk has got the Kentucky one, but London 52 is right there, and he's done it at badminton, he's done it at the Moulin, he's done it at Po. I think his time is coming. I think we'll forget him because he let people down a little bit at the World Championships. He had his first championships, the Europeans in Le Moulin. They came unstuck at a parrot or whatever it was in the water. I think that's what people focus on. And then even I admit in Tokyo under the lights or whatever it was, he didn't show jump as well as he could. But definitely, I think one spook cost 2 rails in that situation. He's more experienced. London 52, Olympic champ.
Laura Collett. Okay. Dee, you've always been a big London fan, big Graffalo fan as well.
As Sam was talking, I was not drawn. I mean, we've all talked at length to think about Graffalo. It's a funny one, like when it comes down to it, isn't it? When you're actually, I mean, let's come down to it yet. We still have plenty of time to go. But when it comes down to it and you're actually having to go through probably 4, 5 real contenders. And I think if we were having this show a couple of years ago, there is great fun in saying, Sam, you're a lunatic. Graffalo's the top horse in the world. But he's right. And I think the other way of looking at it is that you've got, you'd be so silly to bet against, and it looks so obvious after the fact, if the 3-time 5-star winner with all of the record finishing scores delivers. Of course they were going to deliver. But you would also be silly to not recognise that I don't think it was just the conditions that led to the Graffalo dominance at badminton. And I think if you'd put them on a better day, some other horses might have stayed closer to them. But they
were winning badminton come rain or shine this year. I agree with that.
Yeah, things came together for them. I don't like in a way that maybe if you were to say Colorado Blue mightn't have podiumed on a better day, I don't think you would say the same on Graffalo on that day. But he's right to raise the question marks because the question marks are already there for London. The horse that I would be drawn to, and we'll come back to it, but while Sam was talking, and I am conscious that I actually don't know if I've done this one yet, because I think if you go back to the shows, it's quite a long list of winners. I'm going to get it right. Like there will be no horses left in Paris. Yeah, there'll be no horses left in Paris. But for the sake of conversation, it wasn't Graffalo that I went for before the show when we were talking about it. And that's why I was saying I think it's interesting when you get to this stage and you have to think about it. It was Chipmunk. And while Sam was talking, I started looking at the Fisher Chipmunk versus London. We went really heavy on that pre-Bertoni. And actually, a couple of years later, we're arriving back at the same point. And while you now probably put Graffalo into the mix, you may be putting My Bomb first phase score into the mix there as well in terms of obviously a little bit older now, but a horse that we know can deliver a very competitive first phase and stay in this in Paris. There will be a couple more, but I think, would it be fair to say they would be the 3 that are going to be the main discussion points? Graffalo, London and Fisher Chipmunk?
Yeah, if Will Coleman took gin tonic, he could get down there.
Also, you look at like your world champion Yazing and Banzai de Loire, that it wasn't that long ago. Point. I think it was the Riders to Watch show that you were both kind of saying Banzai they could be the Olympic champion. I have to say, so for me, I am putting up Fisher Chipmunk FRH, Michael Young. So Michael Young, the Olympic champion 2012, Olympic champion 2016, could have been Olympic champion in 2020/2021, whichever one you're looking at it being. He hasn't delivered at a championship for so many little things. So he obviously had the pin in Tokyo. He had a couple of rails in Protoni, which cost him. He had that fall in Harada last year. Like, there have been so many little things, but he does have the best finishing score at 5-star on record. 20.1, Kentucky 2022. He's been to a 5-star. He's won it. He can be sub 20. He's actually only had 3 rails in his last 15 rounds of jumping. So that is 2 rails from Protoni and 1 rail over 2 rounds of jumping, which I've counted as 2 rounds of jumping in Tokyo. Everything else has been clear. So you're looking at 2 rounds of jumping on the final day. This was a horse that early on in his career, you could have said the jumping was a weak link. That is not the case now. 3 from 15 in rails, that is what? 12 clears from 15 rounds over some of the toughest tracks. I just can't see like this freakish run of things that have happened. Surely it's going to come to an end.
We did a graphic just before Protoni where we put those 2 horses and their stats beside each other. I'm just going to read it out. So this is obviously at Protoni time, and it has Chipmunk versus London. 5-star wins, 1 5-star for Chipmunk. So Chipmunk is the first, and then London the second thing I say. So 1 and 2. So London had 2 wins. International wins at the time was 19 against 8. Championship appearances 3 for Chipmunk, 2 for London. Championship medals 2 for Chipmunk, 1 for London. Best 5-star score, not much between them, 20.1 and 21.3. So they both show up on the all-time records fairly frequently. What's interesting for me, highest performance rating, Sam, 111 for Chipmunk, 109 for London. What's interesting, though, is current ELO, when we did this graphic, 903, current ELO for London, 821. And if you look, and that was pretty much both of them at their max. Their career best ELO for London was 904. So he was 903. He was peaking going into that. Chipmunk was peaking going into Protoni. And London was 821. London was also at at their highest point to date, to that point. But London, if you look at it as of now, London has gone up. London's actually 841 now, but Chipmunk is back to 865. And to think slightly, not outside the box, but Sam, I know one of the conversations we have constantly when we're balancing EquiRatings and championship eventing or final day on a 5-star eventing is actually you are well able to do a dressage test and well able to show jump. And we've seen that on cross-country course, but we've seen that all across your career. But when you're talking to youngsters and when you're talking to Tim Price or when you're talking to Laura, they're getting up every morning and they're show jumping all sorts of different horses. They're getting up and doing tests on all sorts of different horses at all sorts of levels. Look at Laura, for example, with Aoife's horse that was just sold. She's taken all sorts of challenges and having to meet them and meet new horses and new challenges all day, every day in that big cycle. Michael's not doing that anymore. Michael Young was doing that for a period of time under Bartle, where you saw, I can't speak from inside the system, but what I can tell you is that Fisher, Chelsea and a number of other show jumpers are a lot more active on the circuit than they were in the 2010 to 2020 dominance or 2010 to 2017 dominance of Michael with Sam and Rakana. We've talked about it on other shows. Like, at what point do you say, well, actually, everything he touched turned to gold for 7 years and everything he just keeps missing by tiny fractions now? There's something there. I would say the difference between Fisher Chipmunk and the London battle for Protoni is that Michael and Fisher Chipmunk were at their peak and London has improved subsequently. And I'd say Laura has probably improved. I don't know if improved as a rider is the right way of saying it. She's always been kind of in that top 1%, but she's certainly riding as much as she's ever ridden and faced as many different challenges as she's ever ridden. And she's got the experience of Tokyo behind her now. You know, she's arriving, I would say, as a rider. Not as a friend, but just as someone who knows her or follows her social media. I would say she's riding as many horses and facing as many challenges as ever. It could be enough when you're talking about tiny fractions between these two horses.
if I was a judge and I had to make a verdict on this and summarizing it, looking at all the evidence that's being presented, Grafalo has the least amount of holes, least flaws, incredible CV with a second at badminton, a win at badminton, a win at European Championships, on an upward curve. All of those boxes ticked. Now that profile leads very nicely to overemphasis, recency bias. He is by far the obvious pick, and then of course Chipmunk, with having lost all the championships that he's been to. What I mean by that is he's led them at some point, even with Julia at the World Championships, led them and lost them. That's become his thing now, in terms of human perception. So it's easy to read into that, but you're not. We're dealing with, don't get caught up in fairy tales. Don't get caught up into going, just because that story makes sense, just because Lordship's Grafalo has been unbeatable, and because Chipmunk has lost every championship he's been to, don't try and make something that shades of grey into black and white. And then obviously London 52 with his three of the four best 5-stars finishing scores of all time thrown into the mix as well. What's interesting is to actually just go to the evidence here. Just looking on their 6-run average, it's London 52 21.3 has the best, Chipmunk 22.2, and Grafalo 24.6. Now, the 6-run average is, and we know the influence of the dressage is very high, particularly in the format, particularly Olympic Games. Actually, the most important will be show jumping. Get to that in a second. Unexpected, so the 6-run average is the average of their last 6 scores. Unexpected, so what does the computer say, given trends, given how the scoring was at each of those competitions, all that sort of stuff? It has Chipmunk out in front, 22.6 unexpected, London 52, 23.9, and Lordship's Grafalo 24.1. They may sound high to you because we're used to, sometimes at Bertoni, they get very excited and they give these teen scores, and we could see 18s and 19s. But we've also seen the flip at London Olympics and Rio Olympics, where they actually score quite tight and quite high in the Olympic Games. And with the shortened test and stuff like that. But that it's more the ranking that's important, whether you think the actual mark is correct. The bit that gets me, and why, if I was a judge, I'd have to say, okay, you two have won the debate. Or if it was a debate and I had to award a winner, and I would give it to you guys with Chipmunk, is he's got the best blinking show jumping metrics. And both unexpecteds, okay, which you can, that's predictive analytics, black box, you have to trust it a little bit. You got to trust that machines have a better grasp on this than humans. And obviously they've been trained by a company that's been focusing on this for years and years. But to back up the Chipmunk having the best expected, now they're very, very close. But to back it up, you just look at the show jumping adjustment. Now that is how much above or below the course averages they're jumping. So a little bit like par in golf. If the courses have been difficult, it's relative penalties, right? So Lordship's Grafalo is minus 3.58. So he's averaging 3.58 penalties less than the courses he's jumped on have been averaging. So obviously lower the better. London 52 is minus 3.81. So he's actually slightly ahead. And Fisher Chipmunk is minus 4.04. He's ahead of those two. So even the people who are screaming going, but he had 2 down in Bertoni. He lost Bertoni. This horse can't show jump, and he's going to go to a competition with 2 rounds of show jumping. Well, I'll tell you, of all of the championships that Chipmunk did not deserve to lose, it was Tokyo. It was the arrival of the yellow pin. We could have all ridden it differently. We could have all done an outside 7 and gone a second slower than done an inside 6 and been a little bit flatter and tapped the rail. And he would have won. He had won rail over 2 rounds in Tokyo. Bertoni, if you're ever going to forgive 2 down, it was Bertoni, and that's where the course average. I know all 3 of these horses jumped in Bertoni, but still, when you look at Chipmunk over his last 6 runs, look at his difference to par on his show jumping adjustment. He's got the best. He's got the best jumping masters. Now, I struggled in my head. I was not there. In my head, he was the worst jumper of the 3. The evidence suggests he's not.
I really like that bit of evidence. I just can't see for a rider, and I get your point that he has, he's not running the number of horses at the 5-star level in eventing than he perhaps used to and that kind of thing. He is still a double Olympic champion who is absolutely world class in his system. You could argue that actually he'll go into the show jumping in Paris more confident than anybody else. yes, he sat on the best jumper, but he's more used to jumping big tracks under big pressure.
He was just out of the money in the Grand Prix in Bordeaux 2 days ago.
I'm also just going to put something out there as well, because I think it's worth noting for the Olympics. Sometimes you get the odd horse that throws up a bit of a surprise. So we saw Armando Bonaville, Julia Krawski won, obviously, in Tokyo. The EquiRatings Prediction Center actually flagged that. They were in the top 5, I think, going into the competition in terms of win chances, and actually took a lot of people by surprise. Labia Sadiq Sam obviously won it in 2012 and 2016 with Michael Young, but even going back before that, Heinrich Ramaika and Marius, the amazing grey horse for Germany, won in 2008. Leslie Law, Sheer Low won 2004, Athens, the really dramatic Olympics as well. You can get the odd horse that just comes through to win the Olympics that perhaps isn't the obvious one. So I'm also going to put it out there. Don't be surprised if none of the 3 that we've mentioned in great detail now tops that podium, because surprises can happen, and particularly under that level of competition. Don't be surprised by it.
Well, can I just flag one last point? If you sort by show jumping expected, it's the first time we've ever seen it at 5-star level, which the Olympics still technically is, in Tokyo. It's the first time we've seen the show jumping become the most influential phase of the 3 on EquiRatings phase influence values. So that could happen again. It makes sense. There's 2 rounds of show jumping versus 1. So, obviously there's more emphasis for the individual. A horse that trumps the 3 that we've mentioned in terms of the big guns, and who is second only to Chipmunk Unexpected Dressage and is a 5-star winner, is Isolot.
Dun, dun,
Same stable as Lordship Scrabble. Does not have the reliability, but look, cross country 9 minutes, Paris. Look at Tokyo. The big 6 all delivered because of this constraint of pictures, of accessibility and inclusivity, being a shop window for the sport, trying to get other nations into the sport. They can't build an absolute monster. Now, the French will be tempted to. The French track record with championships is to really rock the boat. I mean, if you thought Harris Dupin, now that might be weather related, but Normandy 2014, Fontainebleau 2009, these lads can cause upsets. French championships can absolutely be influential, but Isolot is if you were to pick a horse in the database that can challenge the favorites, it's Isolot.
I would just say, so this is, don't forget, the Riders to Watch show. So we're picking the rider to be the Olympic champion.
Good show.
Actually, you could pick Ross Cantor and have 2 bites of the apple, technically. Lordship Scrafaloy or Isolot DHI. So there you go. God, it's a tough one. It's going to be a good one as well. Right. On to the next category. So first time 5-star winner. So this is who will win a 5-star for the first time in their career in 2024. We're talking riders, remember. So I'm a bit worried you're going to all pick the same as me, but D?
No, I knew you'd come to me first. Why did you come to me first?
Normally that's a good thing. Get first choice.
I have an idea, but I don't want to be...
I mean, I'll happily pathfind.
Of course you will. And then you'll talk for 40 minutes about the course after to anyone who listens.
Well, you got the double entendre. Great. Well done.
Go on.
I'll leave my work, listeners, from the Horses to Watch show. I'll leave those crumbs for someone else to pick up. The great shout.
That's why I didn't want to take it.
No, I think from call beforehand that Nicole might go there, and that person deserves due credit because it is brilliant. And listen to that show, folks, because it's class. No, the one I'm going, I feel you will. This is why I was actually quite keen to go first. Is I feel you will have a bit of envy here, because I'm actually going for your favorite combination in the sport. I think emotionally, a big follower of this combination, and 2 big seconds last year at the European Championships in Le Moulin. I'm going to show you my work, folks. It's actually never been harder to win a 5-star, okay, as it was in 2023 on many metrics. This is interesting because when we look at the sport, like you look at Burley, you look at Maryland, you think that, and even badminton, only 1 horse from the top 10 at the World Championships in 2022 turned up at badminton in 2023. So you might be thinking, it's easier to win a 5-star. But the average winning ELO of a 5-star winner in 2023 was 765. When we look over the last 15 years, it's down at 660. But that's the highest average winning ELO ever. And actually, the second highest was back in 2015. Horses like Le Biostic Sam winning Burley, Piaf de Benneville, I think, won Poe. Fisher Akana would have won Kentucky. So that was a hot year as well. But so it takes a really good horse to win a 5-star still. There's only 2 horses in the world currently rated over 765 that aren't ridden by a rider who's won a 5-star already. So one is David Dole's Galileo Newwood, and the other, rated slightly higher, is Vendredi Beats for Kitty King. So I've got there eventually, folks. Kitty King is the one I'm putting up. And I know we give her a lot of coverage on this show. We've talked about her as a potential for Paris. That still stands. That could disrupt this plan, this master plan. And Kitty would need to I still feel that this horse needs to go to one of 3 places to win that 5-star. I think they either need to go to Le Moulin, which is going to be a tough one. Well, they either need to go to Kentucky. I think that would be ideal. I'm not sure if they will. That would be ideal. Le Moulin, obviously they were second there, and I think that's ideal. I think suits them, but it's before the Olympics, so I think it's unlikely. So I think actually then it's in the fall, in the autumn, they've either got to get on a plane to the States and go and win Maryland, or they got to go all the way down to the bottom of France and go and win Pau. They got to go to one of those 2 places, and she will become a 5-star winner.
She was pretty close to being right up there at Burley in 2022. I mean, she had an 11 penalties cross country on a tough old Burley, but actually take that away. Yeah, but I think it's all very well saying what if, but I'm sure looking back, that 11 penalties made a massive difference. She also had a very uncharacteristic rail in the show jumping, which is not like the horse. He's normally a very, very good jumper. She was close at Burley that year is what I'm trying to say. And actually, she had 6 time faults, finished on a score of 42.2 with the 11 penalties. If you take
I'm going to give, but I can't. Everyone is entitled to their opinions, right? And I think this is how Kitty's going to think as well. She, like, badminton's just down the road. Burley is obviously Burley, all the prestige. But we've all become normalized that we think that all these good event horses, of which Vendredi Beats is not just a good event horse, he's a great event horse, right? And I know, and he didn't love the mud in Europe, but he handled it and he got tough and he grounded out. And he might deliver around Badminton or Burley, but he is not. I can't sit here and say that that's a Badminton Burley horse. It's not. All the event horses have changed, and this is one of them. So he is a modern championship horse. He is absolutely a Le Moulin horse. I would not see this horse in a 5-star on the 5-star leaderboard at a Le Moulin, potentially even a Kentucky. But Badminton Burley, maybe Badminton in a good year, but the ground at Burley was really good last year, and still only 2 horses made the time. And that's just where I think perspective has changed. And I am older school on it, but there's so much analysis to back it up that we have like 5-star horses and non-5-star horses, and we have different types of 5-stars. Like there's loads of evidence to back it up, phase influence and everything. I would say go and win your fight. Go to like, because Poe can be look at Poe last year, like clear rate down at 40% or something like that. But even like London 52's won badminton, but with a hold. Isolot's won a 5-star, but with a hold. You look at those horses and go, well, they Vendredi Beats just as much speed and stamina as those 2, correct? But they needed things to go their way. That's
okay,
my winner.
So Kitty King, Vendredi. Well, you're saying Vendredi Beats, but Kitty King to win a 5-star this year. D.
Very good pick. Good process. I also have a process, and Kitty was one of less than 5 riders who came up on it. What I did was I looked at all of the 5-stars from the last 2 years and all of the horses that had finished in the top 5.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. Okay.
To be honest, then I just started looking through the names and I was thinking, like, to finish top 5 in a 5-star, and you can just do it, like, you can do it in your head, but to finish top 5 in a 5-star, Tim, Mike, and like, this is last 2 years now. So I'll give you horse names. Vitali.
Give us rider names.
Okay, Tim Price, Michael Young, Tim Price, Tom McCune, Oliver Townend, Piggy March, Julia Krajewski, William Fox Pitt, Caroline Powell, Yaz Ingham, Buck Davidson. Then you get Laura Nicholson, Kitty King, Liz Halliday. All 3 of those went onto my list just because they haven't won a 5-star. Like literally,
neither
Buck was there on Carlevo in 2022, but Carlevo was is 15. And Anyway, finished 5th at Kentucky 2022. But I went through the list, and actually, when you go through it, just using that as a process, not even using ELO, but just using that as a process, I actually ended up with quite a small list. And then I actually sorted it by dressage score, because I wanted to know that actually there's another rider on it there, Doug Payne. I thought, Doug Payne, is he close enough on Quantum Leap? Like, he's an unbelievable jumper. But where's that first phase? And actually, like, in there, I think they came, was it third they came at Kentucky? Came third at Kentucky in 2022, but actually on a 37.2. Now, it was a bit of an outlier dressage test for them, but it's hard to get kind of Colorado blue conditions that you can say that's what it's going to be. So in short, where I went through is I started ruling out people that I felt were one-offs, or not. I mean, that's a little bit harsh, but people where I felt the conditions all came into play. My list is pretty short in terms of who was left. Sam had Kitty just mentioned there. I think you're going to go for David Dole, so I don't know if you are or not.
Somebody else. I'm
well, if you're not going to go for David Dole, then I would couple these two boys together. But I'll take my two.
We're probably on the same two. We're probably on the same.
If we're on the same two, then I would say, sure, play around with your Mickey Mouse 5 stars. Go wherever you want. You know what I mean? If you want to go win the Europa League, not fill your boots. But if you want to compete in the Champions League, if you want to be there at the top end, like where heroes are made, Sam, there's going to be a new hero in 2024. His name is going to be either David Dole or Tom Jackson.
Yeah, we'll just join up on these two.
Yeah, okay, let's join them up. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
Right, I'll let you take over, because actually the two that were drawn today, I'm joking, of course, about where you go. I think it's very important actually recognizing the strengths of the different 5 stars and where they go. And I think you could easily pick Liz and Mixmaster C if we got the right type of Kentucky, a horse that we know is strong. We saw how strong they were at the Pan Ams, but actually don't let one run or, don't let something like that take away from a horse that we absolutely would have been putting up this time last year. And Sam, we spoke to Liz in Aachen, and I remember just the excitement and the power and on all her, everything she was saying to me at the time was, this horse just needs big old 5-star track. They just need to go and eat up that ground in front of them. And again, we've seen conditions come together. By the way, for horses absolutely like the two that we're going to talk about here with David and Tom, Mixmaster C is a right shout for Liz Halliday to go and win a 5-star on if we're taking the Kentucky route. I think the quality that we saw from Tom Jackson and David Dole in Capel's Hollow Drift and in Galileo Neamwood, but he actually had second shots, didn't they, up early? Was it David was it the Farrow Point?
Yeah. Speedy horse. Yeah.
Yeah, right up until like a couple to go, we were thinking, is he going to have 2 in the top 5? But we've definitely talked about it recently, Nicole. I'll let you come in here, but we've definitely talked about it recently on shows, this movement from the ever-greatening gap, I would call it, between those two, or potentially including Kentucky, those 3 5-stars and the championship eventing. And then you've almost got a third cycle, which is all of the other current 5-stars sitting somewhere in between. But those two in particular take a very very specific type of horse now. And also in an Olympic year, you've got to it's going to present a specific type of challenge. They strike me as two boys who are on the haven't won a 5-star list that I think are going to get put up to win 5 stars regardless of they haven't won a 5-star criteria, if that makes sense. Like, I think they're going to be right there. They're going to be right there.
Working their way in on merit. Nicole,
100%, yeah.
What's your what's the feeling like in terms of, like, sport loves to pick out superstars coming through, the next big ones? Like, there's been moments when, Bobby Uptons and Emily Kings, and, there's nothing more exciting than that rider making their breakthrough. Actually, those two kind of both have a similar heartbreak story at Badminton, on their thing. But like Diarm is making the point, young, promising, but had worked their way into the favourites picture already, like going into a Badminton, and then we're nearly there, like produce some of that at Badminton. What's is Tom Jackson the next coming? Is that, like, you're the biggest British fan?
It's really interesting, actually, and talking about it in this way. So these two have, in my mind, they've grafted their way into this position. This is the culmination of lots and lots and lots of hard work over the past 10, 15 years kind of coming together. And actually those results are now really starting to string together. It's not a one-off. You know, both of them have proved that it's not just a one-off performance at an event at a 5-star. And actually, you know, we're coming off the back of that. They've been consistently very, very good. They have both actually got very similar sorts of profiles. So I'll start with Capel's Hollow Drift and Tom Jackson, who were second at Burghley 2022, jumped double clear there. He's had that blip at the Europeans last year, but actually, other than that, his record is pretty immaculate going back to 2019 when he had a 20. But I mean, he is exceptionally strong. He's been top 10 at Bicton in the 4-star in the year of COVID, or the year after COVID, I should say. Second at Burghley, top 20 at Badminton 2022 before that. And then he's rocked up to Badminton this year and jumped double clear to finish 5th. He's a real machine at finishing double clear. Capel's Hollow Drift, I think he's had 2 rails down his last 16 internationals. And on the final day of a 5-star, that is very, very strong as a position to be in if you're sat on that good a jumper. Interestingly, his dressage at the Europeans had improved yet again, 25.7, which would have been, I'm pretty certain, a career personal best actually in the first phase for the horse. So what a time to do it. And actually, if he can get down in those numbers, you know, he's going to be right amongst it. Galileo Newmud and David Dole, possibly not quite hitting those first phase numbers, but whatever they start on, they finish on. You made the point, Sam, on the horses to watch show. This horse had 5 international starts last year, finished on his dressage score in every single one of them. That included Kentucky, that included Burghley. You know, that is 2 5-stars. Seriously, seriously strong. He was very nearly a 5-star winner already, Po 2022, when he had the final fence in the show jumping down. And it cost him. And he's, again, another very good jumper. I think he's jumped clear in his 7 of his last 10 internationals. So they're both...
Doesn't it, on that, sorry to interrupt you, but on that, doesn't it feel like his dressage test at Badminton feels like the type of... I mean, it's not groundbreaking insight, I suppose, to say this, but like, does it feel like that's the sort of stuff that you want to really alert fans or media to, which is, you've got loads more to come, but this is a horse that has shown 5 times from 5 last year that whatever this score that he's about to put up, he's a really good chance of finishing on it.
Yeah.
To be honest, if it's 33, you're moving into the Sam Griffith style highest dressage scores that we've seen win Badminton. You're really opening the door for someone to come in. But if it's a winter of work and we see him go in there and do a 28, well, he's right in the mix. But if it's if he's there on one horse and it's a, I don't know, Thursday afternoon test, he'll probably have 2 and it's a Friday afternoon. I don't know which one he picks, but if, let's say he wants a quieter atmosphere and he goes for Thursday morning, no one's actually at the excitement of the Sunday afternoon point on the Thursday morning, whereas actually for him and for his story, and I think it is a story that the sport should know, that Thursday morning test for that horse is a massive moment in terms of the 5-star season and potentially where we are on Sunday afternoon, given the form last season. You know, you have to see the Galileo Newmud dressage test at Badminton. It'll be in the most important moments that we'll see, I'd say, in the first half of the year.
Yeah, agree completely. And I would say they have, very similar sort of profiles in some ways, different in another. Galileo Newmud, clear inside the time 1 of 2 at Burghley last year. He is fast. Capel's Hollow Drift actually has got a bit of time to make up in a couple of places. He had 3.6 time penalties the year that he was second at Burghley. You know, that was still, 3rd, 4th quickest of the day. He was far from slow, but there's a few time penalties on his record. Badminton this last year feels like we should just discount it because everybody got bags and bags of time penalties. Interestingly, and it's quite topical as we come on to the next topic and the final category, they are both just about to turn 30. So when we talk about those years of graft, they have been turning up at the 5-star level. They have actually been putting in the hard yards, and now that hard work is coming to fruition. And I feel like it will come to fruition this year.
Can I say something on that? When you said that, I was like, oh, the hard work. You're absolutely right. But it's such a hard sport that, like, I just don't think there's that many people leaving too much behind. Whether they're training smart or not, I don't know. Probably not all the time, but there's a lot of people working very hard when you hear these two horses, pal, getting put up to the top of the sport, as like on merit, the come-in forces of Badminton and Burley, like, are you thinking like that? If I had a horse that could jump, I'm right there. Like, because you obviously you've got the same you've had the same cross country horses all your life. Like at the moment, your show jumpers.
Like David Dole has got to remember Galileo's debut at Bicton, and the horse got tired at the kind of 7-8 minute mark. But I think both his horses, and like he's worked on fitness a lot. I think these two horses though are still ground dependent. So this again might be a kind of another layer of deeper than we might go at face value regarding ground, is that they can both be quick, because I think their riders are quick. I think their riders know how to get horses fit. I think these two are the future. Remember, like event riders aren't going to peak until into their 40s and stuff like that. But I still think, I'm not sure if Galileo would go on soft ground as much, because that action, like it's just that European breeding doesn't go on soft ground as much. They bounce off good ground, and then the fitness is different. Whereas like the best example, actually, if you go back to the Sam Griffiths year in 2014, that really tough badminton, watch William Fox Pitts round on Park Lane Hawk, who was a full thoroughbred, because the fastest time of the day was Bryland's Matilda, 20 seconds over with a run out. I think one of the first to go, got the best of the ground. Fox Pitt was going to make the time, like he was a minute from home, and he's going to make the time on Park Lane Hawk on a thoroughbred. They're just a different animal. So they can do things that no other, that these modern event horses can't do. They just gallop differently. Like they don't, like some thoroughbreds are really faster on soft ground than they are on good ground. Like Undesau would be a good example. They let down better and stuff like that. So I don't think these horses want an absolute stamina test in terms of like Badminton 2023. Yeah, Capel's Hollow Drift and Tom Jackson, like there's two slightly different profiles. Like he's really improved the dressage. They're very competitive.
I would just put it out there as well, though. There are very few horses that you feel could rock up and win a 5-star in any condition, in any type of event, in any type of going. Like really, Gruffalo. We're talking about Lordship's Gruffalo. Do you know what I mean? Like there are very few horses. There's always going to be a few, like the competition has to go in a certain way.
Did we not rule out Gruffalo for stamina only about 20 minutes ago? Was it
was the Olympic champion. But you know what I mean? What Sam's saying is, you want good ground. But there are very few horses that you would be saying.
Yeah, Sam was the last, really. And even with Sam, we were saying like he could find them, like he had to climb at his Olympics.
He could be a bit off the pace after dressage. Right.
I promise this will only take 1 sec. But isn't that fascinating?
It was great.
The external conditions are having such an impact. And like you can do all the things you want, but actually if it rains, we're going to have to turn the competition over to this group of horses over here. Whereas if it doesn't rain, and like the amount that changes, like I know Sam, we've talked in the past about like, it'd be great if it was, wet, going like pre-championships, and like, I remember Con 2014, like probably my happiest day, I would say, in the sport, the Saturday afternoon of the World Championships 2014. You get home, Camilla gets home on a wild day, Blair 2015, another one of those. Like, do you remember the excitement of the wet days of championships and like knowing that actually this is what we've been waiting for? We've worked all year, but we got the conditions. I think it's a really interesting piece, Nicole, like that. So much of it is still out of our control. And actually there's so many talking points and so much narrative that can come from just, oh my God, look at the 10-day weather forecast. Now look who we're
like. Sport and humans love chaos. Like it's the same in Formula One when it rains in a Formula One. They're like, I just pray they don't cancel it. Like I want enough chaos.
Enough chaos. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We've a similar thing in eventing.
We want safety. We want safety, but we love
chaos.
Safe
Run outs. Like you don't want the inverted commas bad day for the sport. But like Protoni actually 22 was a class day of a class day of drama, Saturday and Sunday. Watch those balls coming.
Young gun, 22 and under, the sort of the young breakthrough. I was going to call them the breakthrough artist of 2024. I mean, this is not music award. I don't know where I was going with that, listeners. But the young gun. So who do we need to look out for this year that is going to make their mark? Does anybody want to go first? Sam, you're going to have to dash off. You're on a bit of a deadline. So why don't you go in case...
So look, again, process, I had over 23,000 results to look at last year. I chose to focus this time on the riders who had already made it up to 4 and 5 star. So I was down to a pool of 4,065 results. And then looking at kids, as I'll call them, born in 2002.
You sound so old, Sam.
Well, geez, I'm 38.
Half his age.
This girl is half my age, born in 2002 or later. So there's only 116 results to choose from. And look, I have to take my hats off to a name here who had 3 of the 4 highest rated results. Not the person I'm putting up, because I think they're actually too obvious. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like Graffalo in the Olympics. Our job is to obviously acknowledge those greats. This is a great in terms of a young rider, but I think already...
I'm getting nervous that you're going to get my one now.
No, it was Alice Casburn.
Spike
could have her up, but we've been talking about Alice Casburn for a couple of years. And I think actually, like, if one of her sponsors is listening or an owner or something like that, you should be getting in touch with us to look at her, because she had such a high world ranking for a burly, a young rider finish. I think she was ranked in around the top 25, top 30 in the world a year or two ago. And I'd say she'd be one of the youngest. I can't think of another person that young to have such a good world ranking, because you need a bulk of results and to have the 5-star results. So she's there. But I'm actually going for another rider with 2 of the top 8 performances from under 22 riders. And that is Cassie Sanger from the USA, riding Fernhill Zorro, which would have come from the great Carol G down the road from me, Kilkenny. Really, really impressive. Was part of the US squad that came over to Stragom last year and did really well in that Nations Cup, won by Caroline Martin with Galway Bay Blake, who then went on, or HHS Blake, Kelly Hutchinson will kill me, who went on to become Pan Am's champion. And then Cassie came over to Buccalo as well, and a solid result. I think you can look at 35th at Buccalo and think, well, that's a bit average. But actually the strength and depth at Buccalo is still going to boost ELO ratings and decent HPR. So yeah, Cassie Sanger for me. Fernhill Zorro getting on a bit. He's 16 this season, but no reason why that partnership can't continue. And there'd be I wonder which way they'll go. Do you know what I mean? I'm not encouraging. Like, they only have Buccalo. Like, that was the first 4-star long. So
any surprise names or anyone on your list that, and I mean, I'm taking a risk obviously that you'll mention any of ours.
As I say, Alice Casburn had 3 of the top 4 rated results in 2023 from these younger riders at 4-star and above. Amanda Andersson was the only, from Sweden, she was the only young rider who came in to split Alice and Topspin's results, and that was with Jersey. A now 13-year-old mare, and so it would have been 12 last year in Arville. And Arville is always a decent competition run by the Liedekirker Myers. Always a good competition. But yeah, Amanda Anderson, what another name to watch out for. I love this is one of my secret loves in eventing is the Nations Cup series the year before an Olympics.
Not even a secret love. Amazing.
Yeah, it's great. And I don't want to have to wait another 3 blinking years to have that again. I want to see Amanda Anderson and Cassie Sanger, because Cassie's result there that I'm talking about, that was Stragom, that was Nations Cup. Like, if we were going to have that competitive, vibrant Nations Cup season this year, we'd see an Amanda Anderson making the debut, and like, they'd be on Clip My Horse, and you get to watch them and you get to see these stars coming through. And I know the team managers would use it because it's great development and great practice, but without chasing Olympic points, they just don't commit.
All right,
got to solve that problem, folks. We've got to solve that problem. Thoughts on a post-it? Sam@EquiRatings.com.
I have to admit, I watched Cassie in both Stragom and Buccalo last year, and she was super impressive. You know, she's a young girl. She's only about 19, I think. Maybe not even 19. Might have been 18 at the time of coming over to Stragom. And they came over as a team, and it was a real kind of squad environment. And then they actually went and watched the kind of the A team for the US. I guess you could call them the Tammy Smiths and the Liz Hallidays and the like in Aachen the week later. and it was very good. Sam is going to have to run. So Sam is checking out. Dee, you and I can chat to our heart's content now for the rest of the show. Okay, my young gun is actually a rider that I think might be on a few people's radars already, but I think we're going to see a lot more of her in 2024. And I'm excited to see what that journey might look like as well, because she's got a very exciting new addition to her string, and that is going to be Millie Uliffe.
Good show. Well done.
Yeah, I was very pleased with this, that nobody else had got in before me. So she has been top 6 at a Young Rider Europeans a couple of years ago at Hartbury. And actually a rail down in the show jumping was pretty expensive for her there. But that was with a horse called All We Need. I think it actually cost her the individual gold medal. But unfortunately, she lost All We Need pretty suddenly at some point going into last season. And so this year's been a little bit of a rebuilding year in so much as her string, because he was such a big part of it. But she had a really good addition in Victor Crumb, who she won 2 3-star shorts on last year, including Wellington. And I think the other one was at Nunney. But she has just taken on the ride of Pencos Crown Jewel of Ros Canters. So I wouldn't be surprised to see she's yet to step up to the 4-star level. That's obviously, I think, going to change in 2024, because she's got a 5-star horse with great experience in addition to her string. And watch this space. I wonder whether we could see her aim for somewhere like the under 25s at Bramham or something like that. Very, very talented jockey, has spent time with Tim Cheffings, very much kind of under the tutelage, I think, of Caroline Moore. And Caroline will, of course, know Pencos Crown Jewel very well from obviously her relationship with Ros. So yeah, she is my young gun to follow for 2024.
It's a good show. I spent a long time on this category, but
Where did you end up?
I'll tell you where I started first. I thought that we would consider anyone below 25.
The older we get, the more we stretch out the younger.
I was like 25. I was like, because I didn't know what the category was at the time, so I just knew the title of it. So my first take on it was anything below 25 feels like a young gun to me. So I started there. I'm just going to tell you who I had to get rid of, because I think very quickly, I think it's interesting. I had a couple of people on it. When I say I had help from Georgia. I just asked Georgia what I should do here. She did put some funny little comments in there alongside. She actually had Bobby Upton. It still fits the sub 25, but she includes notes for me. Sometimes when I read her notes, I'm like, come on, Georgie, I know that. But in brackets beside Bobby Upton, she wrote, very well known. Oh, thank you. Even I know Bobby. In short, she Chloe Byrne Cambalda, but Cambalda is, Cambalda formerly of Jenny Brannigan. She'd Calvin Bachman in there. She'd Heidi Coy and Russell Z. She'd Jarno Verwimp.
Jarno Verwimp, actually, I don't know if he still fits under 20. He won't be. He's not a million miles away.
He's sub 25. He doesn't make the sub 20, because I went back.
What I mean is he's really not far away from sub 22. I don't think Jarno Verwimp.
Well, I went and sorry, Greta is on the Greta Busacker, Ingrid's Greta is actually on the sub 22 list with Scrabble. We've just been talking about Greta like she's an adult. I can't believe she's that young. But do you want to follow?
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry, I had Molly O'Connor in there for Ireland as well, riding Alcatraz. A lot of eventing Ireland wins. First year out of ponies. Looks very promising. Okay. Remember that name in Ireland, Molly O'Connor? Most people will know her over here. But I'm going for a French rider. No, I said, look, Georgia, scratch that list. Get me everyone below 22 and keep the same criteria who's still on the list. She came back. She gave me a few. Kaya Thompson, Peter Thompson's daughter Kaya. She was on that. Was it 2 years ago when all those junior and young rider German teams basically took home every medal? I think it was 21, 22. She won an individual bronze. Second at young riders. But I'm sure she won an individual bronze. Kaya Thompson. But the rider that I'm going for, sorry, I'm getting there, guys. I'm getting there. I did
This
so
is
much.
taking Spike's showing his workings from the horses to watch show to a whole different level.
Sorry, yeah, I'm listing
You're
people
showing
that
DP's
are
workings.
out of the category of the. But I actually think it's interesting because of that. Because again, it's such a vast category, and like just to pick one person in the riders to watch, young riders to watch, I think is hard. But the one that I went for, and I was really surprised when Sam was listing some of the top rated performances of the year that this rider wasn't in it. But it's Julie Simone.
Oh yes, Circumcertador.
Sir Sumcador, Flora de Aubrey, and Elton Deon. Elton Deon?
Sounded good.
Elton Deon, Flora
Julie
de
Simone.
Aubrey. Julie Simone, yeah, some fantastic results last year. Traveled, which is the interesting thing now in France, but like tough competitions. Finished the year, started already kind of doing the top 5 already this year at Bordeaux in the cross country jumping indoor, big 5-star jumping show this weekend. Finished 4th. But last year at Linear in the 4-star short, so they've only just stepped up to 4-star. But even at that, I mean, I think the very first run last year, Nickers, they came second in a 4-star long in Cronenberg.
That Cronenberg 4-star long, I think I'm right in saying, I'm just going to open it up and now it's not doing it. It was actually, it was won by Sebastian Cavallon, Lipso de la Vigne, but beat horses like Christopher Cease, Totem de Bressy, Nicolas Couton, Absolute Golds. Both, he finished in 5th, both so way behind. Like, had some good horses in that field.
Yeah, the Lithuanian rider Commander VG, who we've known from 5 stars. Sammy Davis Jr. with Jennifer Kuhnle for Ireland was there, but top horses there. But like that was their first time stepping up a level, Nicole. And actually, but I mean, what's interesting is it doesn't feel too much like a one-off, and it doesn't feel for me in terms of the young rider to follow. It doesn't feel like it's too limited to one horse, which is something which can happen here. You've actually got a spread of 3 or 4 horses, and all of them sit with ELOs like 650 and above, and that's a great spread. So to have 3 horses competing last year, all of them stepping up the levels, traveling to events. So as I say, Linear, Jardy, Pompadour, Saumur, Bordeaux, Le Pouget, Hartbury, like they're on the road, they're traveling, and they're putting up big results, and they're just at the cusp of that early 4-star part of their career. I don't know that they will. Because you're like a young rider to watch. When I was trying to figure this out, I was thinking, am I looking for someone to put up one big result? But I think Julie Simone is someone that you're likely to see put up a very decent world ranking. Sam mentioned Alice Casper and Topspin being able to deliver that. They'll have done that from a couple of big 5 stars. I think this combo have the potential to put them up through, or this rider, I should say, has the potential to put up 3 or 4 good 4-star short and long results this year across 3 different horses, which is something that a lot of senior, very experienced riders wouldn't have. 3 4-star horses.
I interestingly remember watching her at Bramham 2022 in the under 25 4-star there, and I think it was her debut at the level. And I'm trying to desperately rack my brains and remember what happened in the cross country. She had a fall, but from memory, it was quite a random one. I have a feeling she was having a really, really good spin cross country. And somebody might correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling it was like a really sort of innocuous, random fall that was not very nice, but actually not an influential fence, if that makes sense. My brain is failing me to
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I think that's a great shout. Julie Simone,
yeah. Remember the name.
Watch this space. I always love these shows, and they always give me a real sense of excitement for the year ahead.
My actual favorite show is the one where we review
whether we got it right or not.
Did we get anything right?
We got some stuff right last year. We've cut a couple of categories this year. You probably noticed, listeners. So in the horses to watch one, we got rid of the forgotten horse because we felt like actually most of those horses stayed forgotten. And they didn't tend to come back, and there was probably a reason that they'd been out of the limelight for a little while.
Asha P a forgotten horse?
Yeah, exactly.
We used to keep doing that. Remember Fisher Rincona?
Yeah. Do you want to make any other wild suggestions or predictions for 2024?
I don't think the Brits will win the Olympics. I think it'll be brilliant.
Olympics.
I don't have a clue. French on home soil, be good crack. French crowd, wild.
I think the French will have a great chance.
US will have a good chance. I mean, they don't have a tradition of winning those big competitions, but like they've got a collection of talent there now that will challenge them. Germans like will believe they can do it. Don't have the talent that they once did, but I think it'll be brilliant. I think the Olympics will be great crack. I hope it is. I hope it's a good cross country, like a more Pertoni. I doubt it will be, but I think it'd be cool if it was at least a good cross country challenge. Like Tokyo felt a little bit let down is the wrong word. It was a bit anticlimactic. Not if you're a Brit who wants to win and you're a rider, totally grand. But I just think as a fan of the sport, when you're building up, like Tokyo was a long build up. We had that extra year, and essentially you're waiting and waiting and waiting for the cross country day, really, and then not much happens. You're like, Do
you know what I think is going to be massive for Paris? And I think we're not giving it nearly the airtime that we should be giving it, or that we gave going into Tokyo, because in Tokyo it didn't really have any effect, is the 3 from 3 and the substitutions and the penalties that you can take.
Yeah.
And all of that. I mean, I think that's
no one's talking about that anymore.
Massive part of it. And I think it's going to have a huge impact on the final team leaderboard. But the
substitution thing hasn't really been a thing, though. Like it's not really talked about. Well, like I can tell you from talking to high performance managers and stuff, like not that many people really talk about.
No, but you know what I mean. It's like the 3 from 3, and then there's if somebody falls off, they can still jump, which feels so alien, and you can.
You're kind of out of it, though. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're bringing on a striker in the 85th minute to win the game for you. Like if you're making a substitution, I don't think you're in the medal category, are you?
But all of a sudden, and you have to go back, and we will do it, listeners. We'll give you a proper jargon buster going into the Olympics as to making sure that you know what will happen if any of these things unfold, because it will probably catch us all a little bit by surprise. I feel like Tokyo was just very uneventful after all of the build up, and actually we're probably going to find it a much more impactful.
And you know what, you're so right, it's so under the radar, the 3 from 3 now, because we did Tokyo, and just because it didn't have an impact, by the way, it had a real impact in the show jumping at Tokyo. Like Ireland essentially were out of the play in the jumping midway, very, very early in the competition. Yeah, you're right on that. I think, that could be, why don't you put that up as your prediction, like a 10-pointer, which is the 3 from 3 rule will have a major impact at Paris 2024.
I think it will.
Someone's going to get. Well, obviously, someone's going to get done by it, but
I mean, it'll be more high profile. So I think there will be. Like last time, we had some pretty high profile substitutions before the dressage. So like Thomas Carlyle dropped out. Didn't Stuart Tinney drop out, and Kevin McNabb came in? I think it was.
But that felt like it was.
Didn't Austin O'Connor come in for Carl Daniels?
I think he was in before it.
Was he already in?
It was late, but it was before the competition started.
But that's what I mean. Like there were more shuffles before the competition started.
But Tokyo felt like those shuffles were like Tokyo was a mare. Like just from talking to Sam, and then no one really enjoyed Tokyo. I don't think it was sounded.
I think you had your riders that were your substitutes in Tokyo, and we spoke to, I think it was Ross Cantor and Sarah Charnley, her groom, after Tokyo, and you've kind of picked up on a few of those riders' thoughts and what it was actually like, the impact on them. Tammy Smith, My Balm, they were the reserves in Tokyo. The impact it had on those riders being sort of mentally strong enough to be in that position, but the horses were fit at a competition, ready to run. The impact it had on the horses as well. For me, your fourth man or fourth woman isn't necessarily your strongest competitor on paper. It is a big part down to how strong they are as a character and how mentally tough they are and how their horse will deal with that sort of environment. That is huge for me. And I actually think you would pick
Paris will be. Do you think Paris will be easier than Tokyo for
you get rid of the COVID stress for one? I mean, the COVID stress.
And to be honest, that was pretty big in 2021. If you remember where we were, every
quarantine.
John Kyle was there spitting into a bottle every morning to get it collected just to see if he could go and do his commentary that day. You were waiting for your test.
it was pretty brutal. And
Grim.
like supporters, and you couldn't go anywhere without having a test, and you were worried, like you felt like the other shoe was going to drop at any given time. So I think you add, all of a sudden you have this Olympic environment that's so intense anyway, and then you add that to it, it's next level again. But I just think that your fourth man or woman is a really, really, really tough role to fill. Really tough role to fill. And I think every team will probably have a slightly different dynamic and a slightly different thing that they're looking for. But for me, it's their temperament, it's their kind of mental strength, as well as how good they are as a combination.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point.
I think we could see a different team of 4 with a different fourth man or woman, as I keep saying, a different fourth person.
You sound a bit like Alan Partridge the way you
I know I've started saying it.
Woman.
But your different fourth person would be, I think, in a good few teams, potentially different to if all 4 were just going into the team.
Yeah, okay. 5 stars will be wild enough is my guess. You're looking at me because you're like, what does that mean? I think
like wild in a good way, wild in a bad way.
I think they'll potentially be more exciting than Paris. I mean, team competitions I think are more exciting generally. But Burley last year was good crack. Actually, you know what? We didn't put up Harry Mead has he won a 5-star? He hasn't, has he?
He hasn't actually. He's got a good string of horses, actually. He would have been a very good shout. He's got a very good
Imagine Harry Mead won badminton. Like it'd
or
be
Kentucky.
We'd have to have like the coronation style celebration again. There'd be like little mini Union Jacks all the way from. He's by badminton, isn't he? He's close to there, isn't he?
He's really close to badminton. Yeah, he wouldn't be far away, like 10 minutes or something. Badminton would be a big one. His kids are in the Beaufort Pony Club. Like it's very much.
Yeah, that Crystal Cavalier, I'd say, could have a shout.
Crystal, she's smart. Like
Cavalier
she was my real takeaway from Burley last year. But I would say actually Harry was just in really good form last year. I mean, I have not seen him in that strong a form with that strong of horses. I mean, he's number 5 in the world, Harry.
Yeah.
And he backed up really good runs at Burley with a horse that was top 10 at Blenheim or top 20 at Blenheim? At Hopton Mats went to Blenheim, and I think Animal Valona was on the podium at Blenheim. So we had 2 in the top 20 at Blenheim, both of whom finished on sub 40 scores at the 4-star level. Cavalier Crystal was obviously 3rd at Burley. Away Cruising had 20 penalties at Burley as Pathfinder, but actually other than that was very good, and that was kind of uncharacteristic for him. He's got a really, really nice team of horses. Red Kite went to Poe at the end of the year. Didn't go well, but, is another at 5-star level. He'll come out with a good number at 5-star in the spring.
Imagine he got world number 1. Is he way too far off points-wise? I mean, the Burley points would be very helpful. And they'll be late in the season. Like if he could add 2 or 3.
Burley and Blenheim late in the season. I think it depends what happens at badminton. He'll be hard pushed to overhaul somebody like Oliver that has all 5 stars.
But even if he got to world number 3, just to be like at world number 5, he's back in the picture. Like it's pretty good.
100%. So lots to look forward to.
Harry Mead. Can we put him up as well?
You can put him up. Hey, so my prediction was that the Olympics would be wild 3 from 3. Your prediction is that Harry Mead's going to have another.
Why don't we leave the 2 boys as the twins so they can be kind of a joint pick for us?
Tom Jackson / David Dole.
Yeah, Tom Dole. We'll put them together, and then we can bring in Harry as our extra prediction that we get for Sam leaving early. It'll be worth points come next year maybe if it was to be a swinger for me. Also, how's Spike making his predictions this year? Is he just going to voice note them?
He will voice note them. So we're going to, at the end of this show, listeners, we'll hear from a few other members of the team that will put their predictions out there.
Excellent. Beat me last year.
On that note, let's just go and hear from them. So here you go, listeners. This is what the rest of the team have to say.
Hey listeners, it's Rosie again. This time we are back with our Riders to Watch. 3 categories for our Riders to Watch. Olympic champ, 5-star winner who hasn't already won a 5-star, and Young Guns. So I'm going to start with Olympic champ, and I'm going to be very predictable. I really do think it's going to be Ros Cantor. I'm happy to get to say Ros Cantor, just her name, and not to actually say which horse, because it could be either Isolot DHI if he goes, or of course the amazing Lordship's Graffalo. So I think it doesn't really matter which horse she brings. She has a fair shout at winning on both of them. So I am going to be predictable there, but I'm going with it. On to our 5-star winner who's not already won a 5-star. Now, I said David Dole and Galileo Newmod on our Horses to Watch show, which I do 100% believe. I think David is going to have a big win this year. But I'm actually going to say Harry Mead as my 5-star winner, who hasn't already won a 5-star. Can't believe he's not already won a 5-star. But last year at Burghley, Cavalier Crystal looked absolutely phenomenal. And they placed third there. I think that was her first 5-star. A really, really special horse and a very, very good rider. So I really do think that this year could be the year for Harry Mead and Cavalier Crystal. On to my young gun. I have gone very British with this, I must admit, because my young gun I'm going for is Finn Healy. Finn, who had a phenomenal start last year, picked up a win at Thoresby 3-star, second at Kelsall Hill 3-star, and then went on to win the Bicton Young Rider 3-star long. And they were selected, I believe, for the Young Rider Europeans, but unfortunately his top horse, Triamble, had a colic, and that meant that they couldn't go. But hopefully she should make an appearance this season, fingers crossed, if the recovery's all gone well. Finn is a really, really super little rider, and one that I think that we should really look out for this year, especially with Triamble, because they were a force to be reckoned with at the start of last year. He's got some amazing other young horses coming through. So Finn Healy will be my young gun to watch in 2024.
Hi, it's Catherine Austin with my riders to watch this year. I find this harder than the horses. I don't quite know why. Okay, I'm not sure that my choices, or some of them at least, aren't that original, but there we go. My idea of the Olympic champion, Paris 2024, is, drum roll, not that much of a surprise to anybody, Ros Cantor. I mean, she's the reigning European champion on her badminton winner. She's a former world champion. She's been to an Olympics as reserve, which if she ever needed to whet her appetite, which I'm sure she doesn't, for Olympic success, it would have been that experience. She's won everything in the last year, as we know, as well as badminton and the Europeans and Poe and Blenheim and everything else you can think of. Yes, I think Ros Cantor will be the Olympic champion. And just not that you needed to know, I think that Oliver Townend will take the silver medal to his irritation, probably. The rider who hasn't yet won a 5-star, who is going to win a 5-star. So a 5-star first-time winner. How about Kitty King? That will probably annoy her, because I'm sure that her and Vondjdi Biat's year is focused around the Olympics, as it should be after their individual silver and team gold last year at the Europeans. But it's very, very tight for selection. Who knows what's going to happen? She may not end up going, and she may end up winning a 5-star instead, which is some consolation. I don't know. Yes, I think that Kitty and Froggy certainly have the capacity to win a 5-star. And I think this could be the year that they do it. My young rider to watch, the young gun, is Lucy Stimpson from Leicestershire. She'll be 21 in March, so I imagine that she's probably aiming for a young rider to end place for Britain. But I know that she's also got Brabham under 25s in her sight with Radira Dorka, a horse that she bought from Sophie Adams and Oliver Townend. An older horse, a very experienced horse with whom she's formed a very good relationship, and she can ride. And I think it's a very realistic target, and they'll be exciting to watch. Lucy's got backing, she's got horsepower, she's got determination. Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on.
Listeners, it's Spike the Vet, and I am sending in a voice note on this one for our riders to follow for this season. And I think I'm just going to go through it, busy old time, veterinary-wise, so I'm not going to show my workings like I did before, where I got roundly abused, but that's fine. Don't mind that from the team. So, Olympic champion, I am going to go with Mr. Tim Price. And I think it's going to be on Falco. And I think that I've just always loved the horse. I think he's an absolute star. He's clearly very capable to get in the low 20s in the first phase. He's an absolute jumping machine from the point of view of jumping 2 clear rounds. He's had his blips cross country, but I just think my gut feel is that it's not going to be the real challenging cross country at the Olympics at the level it's at. And I think it'd be quite a cool redemption story. Well, not redemption story, but comeback story. He had to have his colic surgery at the tail end of last year. But yeah, I was going to say I had my spies out, but I haven't really. I saw that they released a video on Instagram, Team Price, of all the horses heading off down to Spain, and they listed off all, I don't know, about 100 of them. And Falco's name was on the list. So he must be down in Spain doing his jumping as we speak. And therefore, I would hope he's, clearly recovered well from his tummy upset. And yeah, needs to get qualified. But yeah, I'm going to go big and support Tim to be our Olympic gold medalist. So, yep. And then we've got the next one is our first 5-star winner. I was totally convinced, and I've said before in a previous podcast, I was totally convinced that David Dole had won Burghley last year when he jumped clear in the show jumping. And I can see 2024 being the year that David and Galileo Newmod pick up their first 5-star win. Big fan of the horse, big fan of the rider. I think they're going to probably just miss out on Olympic selection, but I could see him going one better at Burghley. Maybe even at Badminton in the spring. But I think I would hopefully have 2 good runs for my pick there. And then Young Gun I always hate because, as I've said before, it's like picking between your children. But I've been told that I can do 22 and under. So I can therefore choose a hugely talented young British rider who did his last year of Young Riders last year. So he's coming out of that now. And that is Barney Brotherton. He worked at Harry Mead's yard for a few years. He's now set up on his own. He has the most gorgeous horse called DHI King Nelson. He went to the Montelibretti Young Riders last year, and sadly, Barney had a little bit of a brain fade moment cross country, and he got himself eliminated for jumping the wrong fence, but they would have been right up there in medal contention. He's a super horse, great jumper, is being aimed for Blenheim 8-9-year-olds later this year, has become second in a 3 short, second at Bicton 3 long last year, really capable on the flat, beautiful horse. And Barney's also got a great horse called Cash Casino that did their first 4 long at Lignières at the end of last season, and I know that they're aiming for Bramham this year, so that in that under 25 class. So, yeah, there we go. Barney Brotherton for my young gun. So yeah, I think 3 strong picks. Very male. That's very unlike me to be very male like that. So, but anyway, hopefully no harm, no foul. But yeah, really looking forward to this season. Can't wait for it to get going. And as I sit here finishing up for my day of work, that was a sunny day and it felt like spring was coming. So how about that? Roll on some dry, warm spring days.
There's some good picks in there, actually. Listeners, riders to watch.
Which was your favourite, Nicole?
Rosie's. I think she used a little bit of analysis to go into it. He's trying to put me on the spot, listeners, because I was trying to do that link before we had their recording. So I'm just going to hold my hands up and say I've absolutely no idea who they picked at this stage. But I like how you tried.
I like how you tried for a second to go for it.
Well, there's a little bit of. That's
reality. What you're not meant to do. Is that what's got the fourth curtain? You're not allowed to look behind the fourth curtain. Not allowed to break the curtain. Is that what's called? Have you ever heard that?
Never heard that before. No idea what you're talking about.
If you break the spell of like the fact that you had to edit those 2 bits together, that's the fourth curtain.
Oh, well, listeners, there you go. I've broken the curtain. You've had a little.
No, I broke.
You broke it. You've had a little insight into what goes on behind the scenes on the show. we would love to hear who your riders to watch are for 2024. So if you want to send them in to us, we will share some in the coming weeks. By all means, please, if you don't already, hit the subscribe button. We've got some really fun shows coming your way in 2024, including, can we tease, Dee, because we've just talked about it slightly at the end of this show, Olympics and Olympic specials. And one of the shows that we both love the most that we've ever done, similar to the Atlanta mini documentary that we did pre-Tokyo. We are delving back into the archives to go and relive some past Olympic Games with Connolly's Red Mills. And I'm so here for it.
It was something that we really wanted to. We sat down probably, probably June, July last year, and it was actually quite good on our behalf in terms of planning, and shows that we have grown up a little bit over the years. But we began to look towards Paris and as what would our 2024 content plan look like, and what could we do differently, and what would keep it fresh, and not just have to keep doing previews about London Chipmunk Graffalo head-to-heads. And actually part of the fun of the sport is where all of that colour sits. And I love the Atlanta one. Like the Hugh Thomas talking about Atlanta. Do you remember like going to try and find Harry Milliken? Wasn't it like we were Instagramming all sorts of people being like, would you like to talk about Atlanta? I loved just a kind of more of a documentary style that allowed something to breathe a little bit, Nicole. Like to go back. No one will talk about Tokyo. Tokyo will be an amazing show.
We'll do it in a few years' time.
But it's too close. They're not ready. They're all still sort of on teams. They're all still knocking around. It's all too I don't want to give away the secrets, all that kind of stuff. But if you go back to Atlanta, they're like, oh yeah, and he did X and she did Y, and it just feels a lot like you've let it breathe enough that people are open to remembering the warts and all stories. So that's what I think, that to try and go back and actually capture some of that colour. What are we covering? Tell me, what have you got the
We've
plan
got the
yet?
three. We've got the three. There will be 3 specials pre-Paris listeners. Sydney, Athens, the drama of Athens, and London.
Okay.
They're the 3 that we're going to
multiple contributors.
Multiple contributors. We've already started recording. The first show will be out. Sydney will be out probably by the end of February. Coming soon. Yeah, absolutely on its way very soon, listeners. And it is already, I think, whether you remember those games and you kind of can relive them, or whether actually you're aware of them and you kind of know the results, but actually you don't really know what they were like, because I was 10 when Sydney took place, so my eventing obsession hadn't really kicked in. And I look back and I've kind of picked up a lot, but actually going into the deep dive of what it was like in Sydney and what the feeling was like and what the games were like and the stories of it is really, really fun. So whatever your experience with them, it is going to be well worth a listen. Anyway, we've teased enough. I'm not giving any more away. We've got some great guests lined up. There you go, listeners. Riders to Watch 2024. Sam will think we finished this hours ago, and we didn't. We just carried on without him. But Dee, thank you as always. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you don't already, as I say, hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back soon with more. On the 1st and the 2nd of March 2024, some of the best horse and rider combinations on US soil will be going head to head, because we are looking forward to the 6th instalment of the $100,000 Conceal Grand Prix Eventing Showcase at Priestfield, presented by Taylor Harris Insurance Services. Double the prize money, double the stakes leading into Paris 2024, and you can get up close and personal with some of the stars. If you would like to get your tickets, as I say, they're available now. Go online to aikenhorsepark.org/eventing to purchase general admission, or if you fancy treating yourself, then there are VIP options available. Plus, go over to visit aikensc.com for everything you need to know about where to stay, where to eat, and all of the local attractions to make it a truly unforgettable experience and an unforgettable visit to Aiken in South Carolina.